as the story is essentially a will they or won't they between Hana Ogi and Lloyd Groover. Don't worry, they will, because Marlon Brando made sure of it apparently. It's also about the obstacles put in their way, like the law that says you can't bring a Japanese wife back home to America, which is a pretty bananas law. So the base had rules against being with the local population because of that. Now, just in case you're wondering, like, what does it matter? They can just stay in Japan or something like that. If they get ordered to return to the States, they have to leave their wife behind. The United States doesn't recognize them as their wife. Welcome back to The Rank. I'm John. Today we're going to be continuing to rank all the Best Picture nominees ever, and we'll find out what the best movie for each year and all time are. Now, for those of you who are new to the show, the agenda for the episode is I go over some facts and tidbits I found out about the film that I call the Potent Notables. Then I'll do the movie overview, which is as described, an overview of the movie, and then we'll finish up with the rank, where I rank the movie in 10 categories on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. And today I'll be continuing the 1957 nominees, with the next one being Sayonara, the 1957 Best Picture nominee starring Marlon Brando and, according to the poster, an exquisite new Japanese star. Even though the poster doesn't give her name, I will, it's Miiko Taka. With a screenplay written by Paul Osborne that was adapted from the novel by James A. Michener and directed by Joshua Logan, it was nominated for 10 Academy Awards and won 4. It was nominated for Best Film Editing, Best Cinematography, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actor for Marlon Brando, Best Director, and of course, Best Picture. The categories it won were Best Art/Set Direction, Best Sound, Best Supporting Actor for Red Buttons, and Best Supporting Actress for Miyoshi Umeki. And just so you know, there probably will be spoilers ahead, so consider yourself warned, I guess. But it is, you know, a 70-year-old movie. Now, if you're enjoying these rankings and want to find out what will be the best movie ever nominated for Best Picture or even the best of each year, please subscribe and or follow. Please put any of your questions, comments, suggestions into the comments, or you can email them to me at info@therankpodcast.com. I will respond to them. You can also let me know what year you'd like me to do next. And if you super duper like it, consider becoming a patron on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast. Now, so far, 1957 has been a good year, with 12 Angry Men sitting on top with a 91.5, which is absolute masterpiece. The Bridge on the River Kwai below it at an 86.75, which is supreme cinema. And then Peyton Place at 83.25, which is, I'd watch it again. And the Academy got it wrong again, but will 12 Angry Men remain on top? Let's find out how Sayonara ranks among the all-time and for its year, starting with the Potent Notables.
Potent Notables.
Now, as always, we start the Potent Notables with the box office info. According to IMDb, Sayonara grossed a worldwide total of $26.3 million. I couldn't find the budget amount, but Google's AI said it was $7 million. Then when I checked its source, which was Wikipedia, by the way, nothing in the article on Wikipedia said that, so I'm not sure where that came from. Okay, so I have to start the non-box office stuff with this one, because, of course, Audrey Hepburn was offered the role of a Japanese bride opposite Marlon Brando, but turned it down. She explained that she, quote, couldn't possibly play an Oriental. No one would believe me. They'd laugh. It's a lovely script. However, I know what I can and can't do. And if you did persuade me, you would regret it, because I would be terrible, end quote. That's a good choice, Audrey. It's a good choice. Now, Marlon Brando insisted on playing Ace Groover with a Southern accent, against the will of the director and producers. Brando adopted a nondescript Southern accent for Groover, despite the objections of Joshua Logan, the director, who didn't think that a general's son who was West Point educated would speak that way. Now, according to Truman Capote, Logan later told him, quote, "I've never worked with such an exciting, inventive actor. So pliable. He takes direction beautifully, and yet he always has something to add. He's made up this Southern accent for the part. I never would have thought of it myself, but, well, it's exactly right. It's perfection." I feel like Truman might have made that shit up, because it was not perfection. Just saying. Don't want to give away my ranking here, but that accent was not top marks. So let's go to the next Potent Notable, which is, in 1956, more than 10,000 American servicemen had defied regulations and married Japanese women, as indeed had the novel's author, James A. Michener. Now, I've seen a couple conflicting reports about the role of Lloyd Groover. So one site said that Marlon Brando wasn't the first choice, but it was actually Rock Hudson. But Rock chose to make a farewell to arms instead. Then another site said that Joshua Logan said that Marlon was always the first choice, but he turned it down, so they offered it to Rock Hudson. Then another site said that William Holden was was originally picked to play this role, but he left the project to film The Bridge on the River Kwai. But what they all agree on is that Brando agreed to do the movie if they changed the ending so that the two lovers got married instead of the American leaving. Although the film was shot extensively in Japan and showcased the country and its traditional settings accurately, the scene at the Officers Club was in fact shot at the famous Yamashiro restaurant set on a hilltop in Los Angeles. Now on to some of the actors that were in the movie here. Miyoshi Umeki's Academy Award win for Best Supporting Actress made her the first Asian actor to win an Oscar, and Red Buttons' Best Supporting Actor Oscar win over Sasui Hayakawa was the only one of 8 categories that Best Picture Oscar winner The Bridge on the River Kwai lost at the Academy Awards. So I just think that's kind of interesting. It got the first Asian award, and then it beat out the only other Asian nominated. And lastly, the final potent notable is about the title song. Logan had originally planned a musical version of Mishner's novel on which the film was based. Songwriter Irving Berlin had written a title song for the planned show. When the stage project fell through and Logan was able to direct the film version instead, he asked Berlin if he could use the title song Berlin had written. Berlin was known as an astute businessman in regard to his work, but figuring that he was unlikely to find another place for the song and that the song was connected to Mishner's story, he agreed to the use of the song and charged the filmmakers nothing. So there you go. Those are all the potent notables. Let's go to the movie overview. So right away when I started the movie, I felt like I was watching a stereotype of what Americans expected of Asian culture. We get lettering that's meant to evoke Japan and some crazy music to start that's a mix of Italian opera and I don't even know, like what a white man thinks Japanese people listen to maybe. Just some real wild stuff in the beginning. And the craziness would continue with Airman Kelly's proposed marriage to a Japanese woman. Lloyd is petitioned to convince Kelly to give up the marriage because he apparently looks up to him. So Lloyd tries to convince Kelly not to marry her through racism, which was neat. Also, Marlon Brando decided to use a crazy southern accent, which was incredibly distracting. I was honestly not expecting to dislike Marlon Brando's character going into this, but Lloyd is pretty damn unlikable in the beginning. Though I do wonder what people thought of him when they watched it in 1957. It's basically a movie about bigotry and starting to overcome it. The idea of being interested in each other's culture as opposed to having the best one. Occupying a country, I know it wasn't exactly occupying it, but kind of, will certainly spread cultures. So we follow Major Lloyd Groover around. This is a man who went to West Point as if it was predestined because his father is a 4-star general. He grew up on different military bases, moving around a lot, and yet somehow still ended up with a dumb southern accent. Now, before you get up in arms, Southerners, I'm not saying that southern accents are dumb.
Yes, that's exactly what he's saying.
I'm saying that his accent was dumb. He keeps up his friendship with Airman Kelly and ends up being best man for him at their wedding. I'm not really sure why Kelly would have asked him or why Groover would have accepted considering how he talked about it earlier, but whatever, it's what happened. Groover's got a fiance whose only purpose in the movie is to show him that he's not living his life with any passion or for himself. How does she serve this purpose? By simply being there and saying it to him. Then we're basically done with her. She shows up again here and there, but they're basically throwaway scenes so that we can have a white woman show up. But his desire to stay away from Eileen, his fiance, coupled with the apparent doldrums of living on that base, gives way to him going off to see Japanese culture. And of course, ogle Japanese girls. You know, the ones he said were gross and slant-eyed earlier. Yep, inexplicably, he's suddenly attracted to them now. Some captain we meet near the beginning trying to get a Japanese girl into the officers club is how Lloyd is going to get introduced to the seductions of the Japanese woman. He takes him to see the Matsubashi, which is a troupe of celibate female dancers, I guess, and Lloyd falls for the top one and basically stalks her till she agrees to meet with him. When she finally does, she professes her love for him in the first word she's ever spoken to him. So, you know, realism. During this, we get an allusion to Lloyd apologizing for his bigotry, but not much more than that. I found it troubling that we never get anyone saying they're wrong for their bigotry, just we're supposed to infer that they feel that way because they're in love. But the problem is you can still want to be with somebody and think they're inferior. Now, he does make a crack about the great white race that I enjoyed, but I feel like it should have been more effusive. Anyway, we've got star-crossed lovers, and poor Kelly's story is going to be pretty tragic. I really liked Kelly throughout until they have a scene where he's threatening to kill Katsumi, his wife, and sort of throwing her around because she was going to get surgery to make her eyes look more like a white person's. The sentiment is nice. He loves her how she is, but you know, maybe don't threaten to kill her and throw her around for it. But don't worry, the good major is going to calm things down by asking her, don't you want to be a good wife? Basically, be good and do as your husband says. You know, it came out in 1957, I get it, but it's a little jarring to watch now. But But this is besides the point, as the story is essentially a will they or won't they between Hana Ogi and Lloyd Groover. Don't worry, they will, because Marlon Brando made sure of it apparently. It's also about the obstacles put in their way, like the law that says you can't bring a Japanese wife back home to America, which is a pretty fucking bananas law. So the base had rules against being with the local population because of that. Now, just in case you're wondering, like, what does it matter? They can just stay in Japan or something like that. If they get ordered to return to the States, they have to leave their wife behind. The United States doesn't recognize them as their wife. It's fucked up. Or in Kelly's case, their pregnant wife. Super fucked up. I know I've been kind of all over the place with this one, but it was both frustrating to watch and endearing at times. I was distracted by weird acting choices, but also the story was strong enough that I was able to overcome it. I enjoyed the immersion into another culture, but also got fairly bored by it. To me, it's kind of a mixed bag. Also, Ricardo Montalban playing Japanese is just, well, it's not good. But let's go to the rank and see how it did.
A rank.
So the rank is where I rank the movie based on 10 categories: story, acting, originality, film coherence, cinematography, score/soundtrack/sound, script structure and dialogue, character relatability, production value, and my rank. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. And before I dive into the rankings, I just want to say if you're enjoying this episode, please leave a like. It really does help us out. Anyway, on to the first category, which is story, which I gave a 9. I really liked the story, even though they took too long to tell it. It's a love story, probably one that's themes are as old as time. The seemingly forbidden love because of arbitrary bigoted rules or laws. Will our erstwhile lovers overcome it? What's not to like in a story like that? All right, so let's go to acting, which I gave a 6.5. I know, it's Brando. But I thought his choice to play this with some weird southern accent was ridiculous. He often sounded like an uneducated hick. There's no way a West Point officer who is the son of a 4-star general who moved him around from base to base would sound like that. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but it was distracting at the least. Everything just felt like he was sort of going through the motions too. Everyone else was fine, but it did often feel like it was unnatural. So let's go to originality, which I gave an 8.25. I'd be willing to bet this was the first movie that dealt with Asian and American relationships and the problem with having laws against them. I wouldn't say it was ahead of its time, probably more like right on time, but still original. So let's go to film coherence, which I gave a 6. First off, it was too freaking long. There are other nitpicky things like Marilyn Monroe wouldn't have been popular in 1951, and there are some inaccuracies with military life. Like there's no way that a major from West Point would wear his cap the way that Lloyd does, and he certainly wouldn't leave it on inside. Additionally, their half-assed salutes wouldn't have flown either. Or why did Kelly ask Groover to be his best man, and why did Groover accept? I mean, he tells Kelly about her being a slant eye and how nobody will accept them. Then Kelly is like, wanna be my best man? But the biggest one to me, besides the too long portion, is what is the point of Eileen? I mean, Eileen gives Groover his first introduction to Japanese culture when she takes him to see an Hispanic man playing a Japanese man playing a Japanese woman, because Ricardo Montalban played a kabuki actor, in case that was hard to follow. So I guess there's that too, but I just feel like he could have gone to see Japanese culture out of sheer interest, which he basically does. The whole general's daughter subplot felt like really superfluous to me. So let's go to the next category, which is cinematography, which I gave an 8. I thought it was good, but it could have been a lot better. They wanted to showcase the beauty of Japan, but they didn't really show it very well. I found that to be kind of disappointing, but it's minor and it wasn't ugly. I just felt like it could have been a bit better. So let's go to score/soundtrack/sound. I gave that a 7.5. When it started, I thought I was going to be giving this a really low score, but it turned me around by the end. Still not great, but not bad. Script structure and dialogue, I gave an 8. I have to say that I thought the dialogue was actually really natural and felt real. I thought the writing was solid, but the structure leaves a lot to be desired. Seems like the writer needed an editor. Or the director did. I don't know, but I'm gonna blame the writer. So let's go to character relatability, which I gave a 7.5. Well, I certainly cannot relate to saying you love someone that you haven't ever spoken to. I get the romance of it, but that's just ridiculous. I also can't relate to throwing your wife around because you don't want her to do something. It was good for the most part, the relatability, but these things were glaring for me. Also, Lloyd just always seemed sort of lazy to me, which made it hard for me to believe that Hana Ogi would actually like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Anyway, let's go to production value, which I gave a 9.75. I believed I was in Japan, so kudos for that. I mean, they were. I thought the set pieces were cool and they felt authentic. I was fooled by the Hilltop Restaurant Los Angeles thing, the Officers Club. So production value really makes a difference with these Best Picture nominees. All right, so let's go to my rank. I gave it a 6.5. It was fine. Way too long. There's definitely a lot of misogyny in it. Like, don't you want to be a good wife? I mean, Jesus. Still though, it's of the time that it was filmed and I liked the introduction introduction to Japanese culture. So altogether, that puts Sayonara at a 77, which makes it I'd watch it again. Puts it just below Ray and just below Miracle on 34th Street, and makes it 4th of the 4 movies I've ranked for 1957 so far. Only 1 left to go. So thanks for listening and or watching. If you'd like to see a list of my updated Best Picture Series rankings, you can do that on my website at therankpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe, review, and comment, and please consider supporting us on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast, where you get access to all of our archived episodes. And remember, if you liked this episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help us out. But for now, normally I'd put a goodbye pun here, but the movie is literally goodbye.
Sayonara.
And lastly, the final
He does this from time to time.